when you don't know that God is your Father and He is love and He has you in the palm of His hand. It's scary to think that there's a God out there in charge of the world that knows everything about me.
This is the Saints and Sages podcast, the book club wrapped up in a Bible study. And for this one, we are in chapter 10 of A.W. Tozer's Knowledge of the Holy. My name is Stephen.
My name is Heather.
And I'm Caleb.
Nice to have you both with us.
Both. I think it's
This is a really interesting topic, as I think it's obvious that we can say that about all of them.
Yes.
This one is a bit shorter. I don't know. I mean, we definitely haven't had a chapter this short.
Yeah, 2 pages?
Yeah.
Well,
but at the same
3.
time, I still think there's going to be plenty for us to talk about. But as we start a new chapter, we will have our friend Brittany read the prayer that gets things started.
Lord, thou knowest all things. Thou knowest my down sitting and mine uprising, and art acquainted with all my ways. I can inform thee of nothing, and it is vain to try to hide anything from thee. In the light of thy perfect knowledge, I would be as artless as a little child. Help me to put away all care, for thou knowest the way that I take, and when thou hast tried me, I should come forth as gold. Amen.
Amen indeed. The divine omniscience of God. The first line, I'll say it. I had to highlight because it's just so dandy as far as kicking things off. To say that God is omniscient is to say that He possesses perfect knowledge and therefore has no need to learn. But it is more. It is to say that God has never learned, and this I thought was very interesting, cannot learn.
Yeah, that stuck out to me too.
I've never thought it would be a good habit to talk about all the things that God cannot do.
Yes.
Because that's something that is kind of ground into our heads from the time we accept Jesus.
Yeah, that's right.
That there's absolutely nothing that God cannot do. But this kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
He's not surprised by anything, right? So
Right.
it's like,
Yeah.
oh, well, yeah, you're not going to be, you can't learn it anymore.
Right.
So, yeah.
I was back again in the prayer. I love Psalm 139 is like one of my favorites. And it is so perfect for like helping us to understand God's omniscience. I would like just to read the first 6 verses or have somebody read the 6 verses. Does anybody feel like it, or I'll do it?
Of 139?
Of 139.
I think you should rock it.
Go for it.
Okay, I'll rock it. O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You understand my thoughts from afar. You scrutinize my path and my lying down, and are intimately acquainted with all my ways. Even before there's a word on my tongue, behold, O Lord, you know it all. You have enclosed me behind and before and laid your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is too high. I cannot attain to it. So He knows when we sit down, when we get up. He knows our thoughts before we speak them, our words before we speak them, our thoughts before we think them.
Yep.
Right.
And yet, what kept coming to me all the while reading this chapter is the reminder of how often that I feel like I could hide something.
Yeah.
Like, if I don't talk about it, then it doesn't exist, right? And I just picture God in that, oh, so God kind of way going, really?
Yeah. What you
Really?
doing?
Just because you choose not to talk about it, you
Right.
somehow think that that I've missed it? Think again.
Right.
It doesn't work like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Well, I guess way back to Adam.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's why it's important to pursue His heart so that we can be in line with it. But it's also like, how foolish are we to think that we could hide anything from Him?
Right.
So it could be terrifying, but it can also be comforting too, to know that I don't have to say this completely right for God to really know that struggling with this or or dealing with this issue or situation. So it's all kind of in how you want to walk with Him.
Is it kind of a sweet spot to find in the God? You know it all anyway,
right?
So I'm just going to be forthright. I'm going to confess what I have to confess. I'm going to say what I have to say. I might even have to chew nails and spit tacks every once in a while because I need to get this out. But
sure.
God, you know this already, and you're fully able to contend with it.
Yeah.
Why would I want to try anything else than coming straight to you with it?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that I'll just say it for me, it doesn't come natural.
Right.
It absolutely does not come natural. It's more of, I got to work out. I should probably pray about that. I don't even know what to say. I don't even know how to get started. Help.
Right. It's like, go ahead and try. Just try it. Just try it.
Go ahead.
And I think the more we do it, the easier it is. It's that practice again.
Yeah.
Like if we practice, even
habit.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's always that little bit of a, I wish you didn't know everything because.
Well, and you think about that because regardless of who you deal with, people that you're super close to, people that you just met yesterday, you don't just tell them everything.
Yeah.
Nope.
We've all got a secret or 2 or 12 that we hope we never have to say anything
and
about
why?
again.
Why?
I don't know. That could be a dozen different things, shame, fear. Good grief. I don't know. Not that I could sit here and make a list for you, but if I put my mind to it, I know that there's a couple things that I would just never want to have to repeat.
Right.
Something that I did or thought or.
So it's all the negatives, right? Are the reasons why we don't want people to fully know us.
Yeah.
And there are things that people that are not Christian might fear because they might not have that view of God that we do. That we know that we don't have to worry about God finding something out about us and then not loving us because He loves us already.
Right.
Yeah.
And
but then are you talking about trust?
Yeah.
Because that's what's coming to mind for me. That as much as I could sit here and say, God, I trust you. Really? Then why haven't we talked about this or this? Or this?
That's good, Stephen.
Because I don't necessarily trust you about that yet, but I'm working on it.
I trust you, but don't test me on this, please.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just like humans. When we trust each other, we start knowing each other more and trusting each other more. We kind of open up the closet doors a little bit more,
Right.
Well, with the good and the bad.
Sure.
We let people in more. So, yeah.
But that comes with I don't know, is it the right word, testing? It's just like,
Trial.
I love you both dearly. We've talked about all kinds of stuff, but there's stuff that I would be incredibly embarrassed to have to talk to you about.
Hey, so have you guys heard of the Brene Brown marble jar in regards to trust?
No. I love her. She's
great.
good.
I don't know if I know who that is.
Well, let's listen to her talk about it.
One day, my daughter, Ellen, came home from school. She was in 3rd grade. And the minute we closed the front door, she literally just started sobbing and slid down the door until she was just kind of a heap of crying on the floor. And of course, it scared me. And I said, "Oh my, what's wrong, Ellen? What happened? What happened?" And she pulled herself together enough to say, something really hard happened to me today at school, and I shared it with a couple of my friends during recess. And by the time we got back into the classroom, everyone in my class knew what had happened. And they were laughing and pointing at me and calling me names. And it was so bad, and the kids were being so disruptive, that her teacher even had to take marbles out of this marble jar. And the marble jar in the classroom is a jar where if the kids are making great choices together, the teacher adds marbles. If they're making not great choices, the teacher takes out marbles. And if the jar gets filled up, there's a celebration for the class. And so she said, it was one of the worst moments of my life. They were laughing and pointing, and Miss Balcom, my teacher, kept saying, I'm going to take marbles out, and she didn't know what was happening. And she looked at me, and she just with this face that is just seared into my mind and said, I will never trust anyone again. So I took a deep breath and I said, Ellen, trust is like a marble jar. She said, what do you mean? And I said, you share those hard stories and those hard things that are happening to you with friends who over time you've filled up their marble jar. They've done thing after thing after thing where you're like, I know I can share this with this person. Does that make sense?
So that's great advice for human to human interaction, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But with God, his marble jar is always full with us.
Always
Like,
full.
we don't have to worry about trusting him. He's
I love that.
very trustworthy, and we don't have anything to hide from him.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, shoot, Heather just talked about Adam. I mean, the dude
he
messed
walked
up.
with him.
Well, both he and Eve messed up, and the first thing that hit them, I think it's easy to assume then it's their nature to want to hide.
Yeah.
Because they did exactly what they were not supposed to do.
Right.
Yeah.
You were talking, Stephen, about the negatives. Like we're trained not to talk about the negative about God.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked how Tozer talks about that down here. So far in this examination of the attributes of God, we have been driven to the free use of negatives. We have seen that God has no origin, that he had no beginning, that he requires no helpers, that he suffers no change, and that in his essential being there are no limitations. Tozer then says, this method of trying to make men see what God is like by showing them what he is not like is used also by the inspired writers in the Holy Scripture. That is called apophatic theology, which I am sure that is wrong, the wrong way to say it, or definition by negation. And I thought that was interesting that it's a whole thing, a whole theology of people saying God is so unknowable that it's easier to use what he is not like to understand what he is.
Right.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
know? That's just a little rabbit trail, but I thought that was really interesting.
Oh, it is. It absolutely is. What comes across to me in some of this anyway is that as we try to figure out who God is, as we try to get a good view of who he is, I think we're forced to look at our own limitations. Because, again, I can learn to trust people like you. I can learn to trust those that I claim that I love. But there's just something so other about God that it's hard for just blind trust or complete trust, because I'm still getting to know him even after all these years.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's where I'm glad that there's a chapter like this, even though it's short, because it's just another page. It's another measure of learning about who he is. Another box of,
why sometimes is he not our first source? It's like that doesn't it doesn't even make sense. If someone is all knowing, why is he not our first source all the time?
Yeah.
And do we just constantly have this
even
struggle?
Second, for crying out loud.
Yeah, exactly.
We try to figure things out ourselves and trust ourselves over him.
Yeah.
If I'm not in practice of coming before God all the time, then I feel like I'm alone in this and I have to do this on my own and I have to figure things out and I have to protect myself. And that's where we get caught up in, I'm going to figure this out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's almost like you're denying your own limitations. Like, well, I guess this is mine to deal with now. Poor, pitiful me.
Yeah.
But God, Caleb, that is so absolutely dead on.
Yep.
Well, maybe that's why King David was so good about bringing he was in practice of bringing it to God every time, no matter what the situation was.
Right.
And through that practice, through that intimacy there, being super vulnerable with God on many occasions, right?
Well, in that vulnerability, we see that we can trust him. Even though we know it, we read it.
Yeah.
But when you're sitting there and you're like, okay, I didn't get zapped. He still loves me.
That is a constant prayer with me is, God, I blew it. I blew it right there,
Yep.
And you had me thinking about something that just happened last night. We had basketball practice and we're playing a fun 3-point contest, and Brody's in it, and that's my son, and so they're having a great time. They're all shooting and they're making and missing and one more shot, one more, all these things, and on the drive home, I thought it was very interesting. But Brody said, he's like, Dad, I knew I wasn't going to beat them, and I said, well, then you already lost. I said, your mindset right there was already wrong,
Yeah.
And so often, I'm going to relate this back to God, but so often we don't have the right mindset. That's not the mindset that God gave us.
Right.
And so we go to, we can be vulnerable with that. We can bring that mindset to him, and he'll correct that. And maybe as we do it more often, maybe we start to feel, we start to know that that's the true mindset we should have about this. I hope he heard me. I don't know. But these moments like that, I'm like, God, thank you for that. I want to, now I can encourage him.
Right.
Hey, how are you thinking about that?
Well, there's a part here that I had to outline because it was one of those aha moments of, it's not like God can't relate to who we are, to what we do, to what we experience. It says, his only begotten son, when he walked among us, felt our pains in their naked intensity of anguish. His knowledge of our afflictions and adversities is more than theoretic. It is personal, warm, and compassionate. Whatever may befall us, God knows and cares as no one else can.
Right.
Because he knows everything. I'll just continue to use you too, because you're sitting right here with me. I could tell you guys a brutal story about something that I'm dealing with, and you may feel really bad for me. There's only so much you can do with that information other than maybe just pat me on the back and go, man, I'm sorry, dude. That's horrible. God knows all that and then some, and is wholly able to give me peace, to give me correction, to give me comfort beyond any combination of people that I know or ever will know. And yet I got to come back to that question. Why don't I go to him?
I'm with you.
With that understanding. And so, I mean, to me, honestly, that's why I found myself looking at this chapter in that different way, in that we continue to learn the various aspects of God, more understanding, more wisdom even about who he is and who he is to us.
Yeah, that's good.
To me, it inevitably ends up like an invitation.
Yeah.
I know this already. Come and talk to me. You have no idea how badly I want you to come and talk to me about this.
Yeah.
Because with me, you just don't even know what I have to offer for your honesty, for your vulnerability, your openness to take your hands off of that thing and say, okay, good. I can work with that.
Yeah,
I can work with that. Lean in.
Yeah.
Please lean in. I've got so much more.
There's another thing that Tozer was talking about here. I'll only read part of the paragraph, but he said, God knows instantly and effortlessly all matter and all matters, all mind and every mind, all spirit and all spirits, all being and every being. And then down towards the bottom of that paragraph, all desires and every unuttered secret, all thrones and dominions, all personalities, all things visible and invisible, in heaven and earth, motion, space, time, and hell. So this paragraph here made me think of God knowing the meanest, nastiest, demon in the pit of hell and exactly how he works, and all the authorities in heaven, all the spiritual realm. God knows every little bit about them. And that's why we can go to God and trust that even in the spirit realm, he is our almighty conqueror.
Yeah.
He's our shield and our
Our
buckler.
protector.
Our protector.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, as I say, and no matter what that picture looks like, God already won.
Yes,
That's right.
And he wants to show you
exactly.
how he's won and how you can walk in that.
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
no authority or nothing coming against us that is bigger than God.
Right.
And that can outthink.
Yeah.
God.
That he doesn't already know about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right above what you had shared, Tozer has this paragraph, and I couldn't stop myself from thinking just how amazing and awesome Jesus is, that he paid the price for us. And it shows here in this paragraph how unutterably sweet is the knowledge that our Heavenly Father knows us completely. No talebearer can inform on us. No enemy can make an accusation stick. No forgotten skeleton can come tumbling out of the hidden closet to abash us and expose our past. No unsuspected weakness in our characters can come to light to turn God away from us, since he knew us utterly before we knew him and called to himself in the full knowledge of everything that was against us. For the mountains shall depart and the hills be removed, but my kindness shall never depart from thee, neither shall the covenant of my peace be removed, saith the Lord that hath mercy on thee. And I was just like totally thinking of Jesus in that moment. How nothing can separate us from that.
Right.
That love that he has bestowed on us, you know. And I was thinking kind of a courtroom, you know, and Jesus is there. They're throwing all those accusations at us, and it doesn't even hit us because of Jesus' blood that was shed.
That's a great picture.
When you come face to face with that, how do you not just throw your hands up and worship and acknowledge, God, I'll never be worthy of all that. And yet I know you've given it to me.
Yeah.
Undeserved.
Yep.
I was thinking of what it would look like to someone who doesn't know God and to think through his omniscience, and someone who does know God, and how vastly different it is. Like we've already touched on. When you don't know that God is your Father and he is love and he has you in the palm of his hand. It's scary to think that there's a God out there in charge of the world that knows everything about me.
Yes.
And then that made me think of Jeremiah says the heart is more deceitful than all else and is desperately sick. Who can understand it? I, the Lord, search the heart. I test the mind. And in John, it says, and because he did not need anyone to testify about mankind, for he himself knew what was in mankind. He knew the hearts of man.
Yeah.
And yet still, the people that pulled out his beard, the ones that stuck him in the side, that spit on him, he still died for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What love.
I'm never going to be able to wrap my head around all of this.
Yeah.
Right.
And yet, God still offers. God still extends that invitation
Right. He chooses us.
to choose us.
Does not need us. Does
Yeah.
not need any part of us.
Right.
Yeah.
And yet he chooses for us to be there.
And in Hebrews 4:13, nothing in all creation is hidden from God. Everything is naked and exposed before his eyes, and he is the one to whom we are accountable. He is the one being in all of everything who knows us like no one else can.
Yeah.
And he chooses to love us when he could give us the boot. But
And we deserve it.
yeah, exactly.
Agreed.
And yet he chooses to pursue us no matter what he knows about us. We'll see you next week.
You know my secrets. You know my every thought. You know the things I've done. You know my struggle, my lonesome, wretched heart. You know the things I've done. It must be love.
The Saints and Sages podcast is a production of Sozo Digital Media.